Genghis Khan. The name alone sends chills down your spine. What if I told you that a man born into nothing would rise to build the largest empire the world has ever seen through sheer willpower, brutality, and genius strategy? This wasn't a tale of glory and honor. It was a story of ruthless ambition, blood-soaked battlefields, and an empire forged with no mercy. You're about to discover the unstoppable rise of Genghis Khan, an empire builder like no other. Ready? Let's dive in. Genghis Khan's journey didn't start in a palace or with a silver spoon. He was born as Temujin in 1162, the son of a Mongol chieftain. But his childhood? It was far from royal. His father was poisoned by a rival tribe, leaving his family stranded and abandoned by their own people. Temujin's family was thrown into poverty, forced to survive in the wilds of Mongolia, hungry, vulnerable, and alone. But that's where his story begins to take shape. No one had faith in him, but Temujin believed in one thing: strength. The world wasn't going to hand him anything. He'd have to take it. From the start, Temujin wasn't just a survivor. He had a vision. While others in his position would have fought for scraps, he dreamed of something much bigger, uniting the fractured Mongol tribes and building an empire that would crush any foe in its path. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about domination. But it wasn't easy. He had to fight for respect, battle rivals, and prove himself as a leader who could inspire loyalty. And he did. His reputation grew, not just as a fierce warrior, but as a leader who rewarded loyalty with everything: respect, riches, and power. Genghis Khan didn't win by brute force alone. His army was different, and that's where the genius lay. While other empires relied on heavy infantry and traditional tactics, Genghis unleashed something unseen before: the Mongol cavalry. He created a military machine that could move at unthinkable speeds, striking fast, hard, and without warning. Horseback archers, who could fire arrows with deadly accuracy while riding at full gallop, became the heart of his army. These riders were unstoppable. They were fearless, quick, and strategically brilliant. It wasn't just about fighting battles. It was about outsmarting the enemy before they even knew what hit them. And then came the psychological warfare. Genghis knew that fear could do half the work for him. His reputation alone was enough to break the will of entire cities. He didn't need to crush every army. He made sure the enemy was too terrified to fight. Mongol soldiers would often destroy villages, leave them in ruins, and spare no mercy. The message was clear: resist, and your city would be wiped off the map. But let's get to the part that made Genghis Khan infamous: his total lack of mercy. Genghis didn't conquer for the sake of empire alone. He destroyed to make sure no one dared challenge him again. Let's take the fall of Bukhara in 1220. The city resisted Mongol rule, and what happened next became one of the most terrifying examples of Genghis Khan's might. The city was completely sacked, its inhabitants slaughtered. Genghis Khan himself is quoted saying, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." And this wasn't the only example. From Samarkand to Khwaraz, Genghis Khan's campaign was one of terror. Cities that resisted were destroyed, their walls torn down, their people massacred. Survivors weren't just few, they were scarce. It wasn't about war alone, it was about control. Genghis wanted to make sure that his enemies knew what happened when you dared defy him. And it worked. Fear of the Mongol armies spread far and wide, sometimes causing cities to surrender without a fight. By the time Genghis Khan died in 1227, he had carved out an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea, an area larger than any other empire in history. But his empire wasn't just about size, it was about connections. He understood the power of trade and communication. The Silk Road, once fragmented and dangerous, was now under Mongol control. Genghis established the Pax Mongolica, a period of stability where ideas, goods, and culture could flow freely across Asia and into Europe. Under Mongol rule, the world became closer and trade boomed. But this was a double-edged sword. For those who crossed the Mongols, there was only death and destruction. For those who bowed to Genghis Khan's will, there was prosperity. This was an empire built on fear, respect, and ruthless strategy. So how did Genghis Khan build the largest empire in history? It wasn't just through the strength of his army. It was through unrelenting strategy, fear, and a willingness to show no mercy. He didn't conquer to merely rule. He conquered to reshape the world. Genghis Khan's legacy is one of absolute power, and though his empire eventually fractured, his name lives on as one of the most formidable conquerors in history. Next time you think of Genghis Khan, remember this. He wasn't just a man. He was a force of nature, a visionary who reshaped the world through fear and brilliant warfare. And he did it all with no mercy.